And welcome back. Today we are going to be taking a quick look at the J7E, and why is this so relevant today? The J7E is one of those vehicles that very much relies on its flight performance and not so much its kit. The PL5s are some of the best IR missiles in the game. However, they are only rear aspect, they are pretty flare hungry. You don't have a radar, you don't have radar missiles, or you do have some kind of a radar, and you don't have the best gun to compete in top tier. And this is fine because it has some of the best flight performance that you will find at the BR. The issue is that planes like the F-16 and the MiG-29 are gonna have a similar, if not a better performance than this thing, with a better kit. And yes, this makes sense. They are gonna be a higher BR, they are gonna probably be a higher tier as well. However, the tier itself shouldn't matter that much. And they are gonna be taking this thing's place, beating it, and then also having a better kit on top of it. And that's going to really make planes like this struggle quite a bit. Now, I'll prefer to fly this over something like the F-104 ASA next patch. But that kind of goes without saying, because the ASA just really doesn't have that many options. This thing can at least try to weasel a dogfight out. But the main meta of this vehicle used to be, you get past the head-on, past the missiles, the AIM-7Fs, the R-24s and all that good stuff. And then once you get past the head-on, you would win versus basically everything. With the F-14 it's kind of equal, but it's kind of unfair because the F-14 had the ability to kill you before you would even merge. But now we are gonna reach F-16s and MiG-29s, and they are gonna be probably, we haven't tested them out extensively yet, but the F-16 on dev currently absolutely rinses this thing. The MiG-27 or the MiG-29 versus this thing, it just runs out of energy. But the MiG-29 is probably gonna be changing, because right now it feels a bit like a boat. Why is this an issue? Because now you get a kind of a jousting match where you have to get past the head-on, which is already going to be exceptionally hard, especially with the R-27s. A9Ls, not that much of a problem, but once you get past that head-on, once you get past the improved weapon set, or the improved kit, or whatever you want to call it, you are still not going to be winning the dogfight. They outrun you, they outturn you, they outgun you, and they outmissile you. So you are now in this very weird spot where this thing used to fill a certain gap. A bit like the F-14 kinda took, but they were somewhat equal and they could kinda joust it out. And it was mostly down to player skill, and especially if the F-14 had a lot of missiles equipped or a lot of fuel in it, the J7 would pretty handily win. But now that's going to change, and that's going to make vehicles like this and basically everything that isn't top dog, even something like the F-14 might start struggling quite a bit. Luckily they don't have too many SAR missiles or active radar missiles, at least not that we have seen just yet. If you start getting into that territory, we get this, like the tier 8, the MiG-29, the F-16 that are going to be added, and then we are going to make it even worse by giving them the ability to cross map you as well. And the MiG-29 with the R-27s already has that capability. The only good thing here is that it only has 2 of those missiles. The issue is that they are basically sure shot kills. Now the good news is the R-27 on the dev server just got changed, and it's a little bit less bullshit. You can actually somewhat flare it now in the head-on, side aspect, rear aspect, you are still basically dead. How the R-27Ts are, we know. R-27Rs we are not completely sure on yet, and we will have to see once it actually comes out. But I am kind of scared for a lot of vehicles in this patch, and I think that vehicles like the F-104s, the 10.7 one, the premium one as well, without countermeasures, they're gonna be 10-3 within a month, I'm pretty sure. And that's just because, well, they are not gonna be able to compete. And if they are gonna get up-tiered very often, and we all know this, like 0.3 BR higher or lower at this stage of the game is basically a full up tier when it comes to props. So when you get fully up tiered in jets, it feels like you're fighting 2 or 3 BRs above your own weight, which is gonna make it extremely tedious, extremely dangerous. Right now I'm kind of fighting an MLD, and the MLD was the first, and I mean like the big power creep that we got. With the MiG-23M, sure, after a few patches it was okay. The MLD, very strong performance. R-24s, and of course you get the R-60s. They are not the best, but they definitely worked when it came out. It's going to get R-60Ms on the next patch, probably, if they don't remove them. Then we got the J7E, and the J7E was pretty closely matched in terms of flight performance. The J7E could win, MLD could win also if the pilot skill was there, but the J7E definitely had the advantage. A little bit of a dynamic matchup. You had to get past the head-on with the MiG-29, the MLD, and if you got past the head-on, you got a pretty comfortable win. If he didn't run away, come back, try to radar missile you, whatever. F-14 comes in. Guess what? Same problem, except it's just a better MLD in most regards. The MLD can win if it's on lower fuel, and the Phantom does strap a lot of missiles and fuel, making it very, very heavy. But once it got rid of a lot of that, it would simply just rinse it. And now, enter MiG-29 and F-16. They're gonna have a better kit and better flight performance. So what are you gonna end up doing? Well, basically nothing. Of course, it's gonna come down to the pilots. The issue is when you give the pilots on the other side missiles that are very resilient to flares, being the A9Ls as well as the R27, and the R27 is still infinitely more bullshit. How are you going to get past that head-on? Because if I fly something like the MiG-29 and I know that I have these missiles, I know that I have these sure-shot missiles, who will I use those sure-shot missiles on? The planes I will struggle with the most. So if I see a J7E, if I see an F-16 that I know I will struggle with in the head-on, I'm gonna launch a missile at them. The F-14 I'm not too worried about, it's pretty fat. The MLD I'm not too worried about either, because those missiles are pretty flammable. And in a dogfight I'm not gonna be struggling with it that much, unless it goes into a raid fight. But I don't know if you've seen the F-16 raid fight and the MiG-29, it's a little bit silly. And then you have the J7E, which probably is gonna have the best bet against these vehicles in a dogfight. But you can contest them before it reaches that stage, so they just have the monopoly here to really just kind of play you like a damn fiddle until you are in a good spot to just simply die. And of course, they don't have to take the dogfight. That's the other nature of those planes. They can simply stay fast, play it like a meta vehicle. This thing, it was pretty meta. It is pretty strong. But you are constantly on the defensive. And if you have been paying attention to the background, and just like right here, I'm playing it in different ways. I'm trying to go high, I'm going low, I'm going to the sides, I'm going to the middle. I've tried everything. And it doesn't really matter what you do. At the end of the day, people see you and they know you can't contest them in the head-on. So they are gonna be taking those head-ons all day long. This guy, I turn around, I'm gonna outrun the missile, I'm gonna just defeat it without having to dodge it. That's the safest way. If they are very far away, you don't have to try to head on them and roll out of the missile. It's very hard to do if that burner runs out and you just see an empty missile coming your way. It's very hard to dodge. So I just kind of break the lock, let them fly straight, and we are completely okay. The F-14 gets cleaned up. He's too busy looking at us. The issue is we are now spotted, and the MiG-23 is gonna do the exact same thing as the F-14 just was. So I'm gonna kind of go sideways, kind of lure him in, and he also gets blasted from below. I didn't really do anything, but I did set up two enemies across the map because they are so busy trying to kill me. And you need to fly around this fact. People know you cannot kill them in the head-on, at least most of the time. Of course, if you get in close range, an F-14 full afterburner, if he flares too late, that PL5 is gonna hit him in the head-on. Sure, these things are not all aspect, but the F-14 is so damn hot that the missile is gonna leave the rail at like 1.8 kilometers anyway. So you might think you can just full send it in the head-on, but as soon as you get pretty close, it becomes a little bit more dangerous. And that's really the main issue here. People just know the limitations of most vehicles. They at least know which planes they can head on and which they can't. And that's why I think that the new gen vehicles are gonna be the biggest threat to the vehicles like this. The planes that rely on their flight performance. Because something like a Tomcat is going to be somewhat okay, because it has good flight performance and it has radar missiles. Probably the plane that's going to struggle the least from the old vehicles. But something like an MLD, something like an EJK, an F4J, FGRs, and all those vehicles that kind of rely on their kit. The MLD not as much, but you get what I'm saying. The vehicles that have a good radar, good missiles, that can actually contest long range, medium range in head-ons. They can actually somewhat counter these new vehicles. It doesn't matter if you are a MiG-29, an EJK, an F-4E, a J7E. It doesn't really matter what you are in the head-on. If you get shot at by a radar missile, you have to deal with them the same way in almost every vehicle. Unless of course you are flying something like the F-5E. But that thing also is completely reliant on its flight performance and its guns. Sure, it has two AIM-9Js, but they are not going to be winning any rewards. And the F-16 and stuff are going to absolutely rinse you in a dogfight. You need to deal with these radar missiles in the head-on. And it's all the same stuff. If they shoot it first and that missile is on the way, you're going to have a little bit of an issue. Now the MiG-29 might be able to somewhat counter this with the R-27. Because if it uses the R-27 and it shoots it, it doesn't have to maintain the lock while you need to. So he can just turn around and that missile is going to keep going at you. And that's the counter here. So that's why I think that the MiG-29 is going to be slightly better here, depending on the missiles that it gets. But I really think that the planes that don't have the ability to contest in the head-on, especially at medium to long range, are just kinda dead in the water. They can't really do much. And even if they do get past the head-on, if you get in a dogfight and you are going to be winning it, guess what? It's not a 1v1, it's not an isolated match. There is an entire match going on around you. And while this plane is absolutely fantastic at maintaining its speed, it's pretty good at accelerating. Once you get slow and you get pounced by something like an R-27, once you get shot at by an AIM-9L from behind, you are going to have an issue. You are going to be struggling a little bit. And I know that I'm just kind of talking in a circle at this point, and I'm going to be talking about the gameplay in a second here. But man, do I feel bad for vehicles like this. And something like the F-104 ASA, I mean, sure it has AIM-9Ls, which I think is going to be the biggest reason they might be somewhat competitive. You can shoot them from weird angles. You can of course try to shoot them from behind and hope they don't get flared, because the F-16 and the MiG-29 are both pretty damn hot. I'm not sure if they're as hot as the F-14, but they are definitely up there. So that's going to be your best bet, and I think that these vehicles will have the best chance in the dogfight. But I think in a regular match that will never really come to fruition, and you are simply just going to be shit on before that really happens. Mostly because you can't really use your dogfighting capabilities at the start of the match. You can't really use that, and you are kind of forced to go high, get behind people, drop in behind people, and try to sneak in these missiles in. These PL5s are great. Some of the best IR missiles in the game. I definitely agree with that, and I know you are watching this. But it's just too limited. They're easy to flare, and you can say, well, the burner runs out, they go kind of silent. They're pretty hard to spot, but when people see the J7E on the 6 and they notice it, very often what they end up doing is just flaring, because they have a feeling it's in the air, and a single flare will probably defeat it. This GR7 is also just spamming its flares out. He's running reinforced, however, and he's dropping 4 per pop. And I'm just waiting for this guy to run out. I still have a missile, I'm not going to be using it, but I have a feeling he is going to be running out soon. And I'm just trying to hit him. Not really working out, and then my teammate comes in, so I'm just gonna dodge out of the way. I don't want to have that guy riding on my wingtip. And then I notice he suddenly stopped flaring, so I just line it up, and poop, down he goes. GR7 into the ground. And that's the thing, the F-16 and the GR7 are gonna be pretty similar. And we all know that the GR7 right now, and I'm not sure why it's so damn effective, because the flight performance really isn't that great, but it has 4 AIM-9Ls. And the F-16 is going to be basically a better Harrier. It's going to have some of the best 1v1 capabilities in the game. Its raid fighting is out of this world. Absolute ridiculous thrust to weight. But it's actually fast. It actually holds its speed. And guess what? It has 6 of them and a Vulcan. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. But the J7E is definitely a plane that kind of relies on the furballs. Kind of relies on coming in, sneaking up on people, at least early game. You need to have the crowd control ready. You need to come in from weird angles. You just need to kill them as quickly as possible as they are all distracted. Because if you get into this 3v1 furball and they all stick it, you can definitely win it. Because this flight performance is good enough to do that. However, the issue is, once they start extending, once they start coming out, leaving the furball kinda, coming back in for the head-ons, and you have to constantly contest these head-ons, you can't really kill them back. They just get not free kills, not free shots, but they can basically just keep doing that until you are completely out of energy. And of course this goes for every vehicle that gets stuck in these furballs. The thing is, with something like an F4J, an EJ Kai and stuff, you can actually, when they come back, force the head on and potentially just kill them. Now, I killed a few guys around us, I'm gonna try to shoot a missile at him and see if he wants to turn in. I'm kind of forced to, because there's another guy coming in. But he dodges it, he flares it, and there's no chance I actually end up killing him. The issue is the other F-14 comes in from the left, and I need to turn back to the right here, because that's where the other F-14 is. So I end up giving this guy an angle. We dodge his guns, but of course it still hits us, because desync is a bitch. Now he goes up and over, and if he tries to go for this shot, he is gonna be dying. So I'm just gonna pull up under him. He actually takes it, and he eats the ground. F-14 coming in from the head-on. If he had an AIM-7F here, I would have been dead. But we dodged the head-on, barely so. We are very, very slow here. And this is a very unfavorable spot. And I need to kind of stay on this guy. I do not want this guy to start turning around again and come back with speed. But I notice a second dot. And the F-14 is RTB, I think. Or at least I hope. Or he's running towards that teammate over there. So I broke off. I'm going to try to keep my speed up. I'm going to try to open up the gap in the hope that the other guy goes RTB. And that I can actually try and 1v1 this guy. The issue is I'm lightly damaged, but it's very asymmetrical. And is going to make me bank over to a side. It's going to make me accelerate worse, turn worse, make me bleed more speed. And also make my top speed lower. All in all, not a great position. And he starts on R6. He won't be able to radar missile us from this angle. So that's just an IR missile. And we are going to try to keep our speed. I'm not slamming the elevator right now. I'm tapping the negative. I'm just turning with my mouse. Tapping the negative elevator. And try to keep my turn a little bit wider. Because I know that this guy is on pretty high fuel. Because he just took off. So we're going to try to turn in front of him. Here it comes. And I split my guns. Just line it up wrong. And I miss. A little bit of a problem. Because that shot really needed to hit. I shoot around his wing. It's too small. Rate of fire is too low. And I lined it up improperly. And now he's going to try to just loop us in a raid fight. Which I can somewhat hang with because I'm on decently low fuel. But he notices that he's not actually going to win it. And then he rolls back down. Which is a big mistake. Because now we are going to be able to get onto his 6. We missed the shots barely. And then he also ends up hugging a tree. F-14 pilots of this game had a pretty high quality, I do have to admit. And the last guy just lands and leaves. So I won't be able to show you that fight either. But thank you all for watching. And I will see you all in the next one.